Sue are on their trip to Cuba, so they couldn't be here this morning. We'll be filling in. Looking in Joshua chapter 9 this morning. We'll start out reading the passage in the book, and then we'll go back and talk through the lesson. Joshua chapter 9, verses 3 through 21. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, old patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves. And all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua to camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, "We have come from a far country. Now therefore make a covenant with us." Then the men of Israel said to the Hivites, "Perhaps you will dwell among us. So how can we make a covenant with you?" But they said to Joshua, "We are your servants." And Joshua said to them, "Who are you, and where do you come from?" So they said to him, "From a very far country your servants have come, because of the name of the Lord your God. For we have heard of his fame, and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon king of Heshbon, and Og king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Therefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, 'Take provisions with you for the journey, and go meet them, and say to them, We are your servants, now therefore make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day we departed to come to you. But now look, it is dry and moldy. And these wineskins which we filled were new. And see, they are torn, and these our garments and our sandals have become old because of the very long journey.' Then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. So Joshua made peace with them, and made a covenant with them, to let them live, and the rulers of the congregation swore to them. And it happened at the end of 3 days, after they had made the covenant with them, that they had heard that they were their neighbors who dwelt near them. Then the children of Israel journeyed and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Sephirah, Merrell, and Kirjath-jearim. But the children of Israel did not attack them, because the rulers of the congregation had sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. And all the congregation complained against the rulers. Then all the rulers said to the congregation, "We have sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them. This we will do to them. We will let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore to them." And the rulers said to them, "Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers for all the congregations, as the rulers have promised them." Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father God, we thank you so much for your word. Thank you that the journey of the Israelites is documented so that we can read about their journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, Lord. We pray that as we study today, that you will open our minds, open our hearts, Lord, to learn the lessons from them, from the mistakes that they made, from the good things that they did, Lord. We pray that you will open our hearts and our minds, help us to learn from one another as well. In Christ's name, amen. So we read about this passage. We know that the Gibeonites said that other nations had heard about the journey of the Israelites. So the journey, they say, they even mentioned Egypt. They heard of the journey starting all the way from Egypt, where they come and finally made it to the Promised Land, where they're now trying to take over and make their home. So what did people in the Promised Land in this area think about the Israelites? Were they a good army, good warriors? Were they good people? What do you think they thought about the Israelites and who they were?
They were the new kids on the block and were very powerful because of their God.
They were very, very powerful because of their God. They were very powerful. They got displayed in the battles that they've already won. So what did others think about God? Did it make them want to come to know the Israelite God, or did it just make them fear God? most of them just feared God, right? They still hang on to their pagan religions or whatever it was that they believed, but they recognized that God was some power that was above human authority that helped the Israelites get through their journey and win these battles. In verses 1 and 2, if you back up a little bit from what was in the scripture, when everybody heard what God's people had done at Jericho, at Ai, the kings of the hill country, it says, came together to wage war against the Israelites. So the kings, all these different kingdoms, or whatever they were called, that were part of the promised land that the Israelites were coming to take over, they were scared of the Israelites. They were scared of these people because of the battles that they'd won, not just won, how they'd won the battles. If you look at Jericho, they didn't really do anything to have to win the battle of Jericho. All they did was march around the city. So all these kings knew that their kingdom alone, their army alone, stood no chance against the Israelite army. They thought it was necessary to join forces with other kingdoms so that if their armies were joined together as one against the Israelites, they might stand a chance to beat them in battle. All of them except who? So all of the kingdoms except who? Who does it say? Joined together. Gibeon. So why do you think Gibeon didn't join with its fellow people on the hill, people of the hill country, trying to bolster this army against the Israelites? What was it about the Gibeonites that they realized that that probably wasn't the best idea? Look at verse 9. It says, as we just mentioned, they recognized the power of God that the Israelites served. They recognized God, and they recognized that it didn't matter what they had. It didn't matter how many people they had, what type of warfare they had. They weren't going to defeat the Israelites. That's been proven in the past. They heard all about all that God did in Egypt. So the Egyptian army was one of the strongest armies probably in the world at the time. And not only had they escaped from the Egyptian army, they escaped and ran across a sea on dry ground that then swallowed up the entire Egyptian army that was following them. They probably also had heard how the Israelites had similarly crossed the Jordan recently. They walked across on dry land. So they recognized again that God wasn't just somebody that they worshiped. He was a God of power that actually could make things happen physically that would help the Israelites win the battles. So the Gibeonites knew they stood no chance, especially if the Israelites escaped from the Egyptian army. They knew that there was no way, even joining in with these other armies, that it wasn't. They weren't going to beat them. So their thought, kind of the saying that we hear today, if you can't beat them, join them. So their idea was, there's no way we can beat them. There's no way we're going to win that battle. So our only chance of survival is if we go to them first and we come in peace and we try to get them to make this covenant with us so that we can be their servants. Being servants isn't the best thing in the world, but it's a lot better than your whole kingdom being wiped out. It's a lot better than everybody dying because you were stubborn and tried to overcome this God that you know is going to let the Israelites win. So they do that. They come, they send some ambassadors. They call themselves ambassadors. They come to the Israelites. They tell them, we want to be your servants. We want to serve you. But instead of being honest with them about who they are, what do they tell them? Far, far away. So they resorted to pretend that they were from far, far away. They went to extreme lengths to make sure that their story was believable. So they had these wineskins. They took the oldest wineskins and said when they started their journey they were new. They took dry, moldy bread. All these things that they did just to make the Israelites believe that they were from somewhere else. Why in the world did they do that? Why did they have to lie? Why did they have to tell the Israelites? If they wanted to be their servants, what difference did it make where they came from?
Because Josh was commanded to destroy all the inhabitants. It wasn't make peace, it wasn't make treaties, it wasn't make deals. He was told to do something, and it was, take no prisoners.
They were only 3 days away, so they could have went and spied out their towns, just like they did Jericho, and found the truth about and killed every one of them.
Right.
Hey, Cory, something else, the question that you asked earlier of how were the Israelites viewed, I think that they were also viewed as foreigners coming in to take land that wasn't theirs. I know that today, that's how they were viewed. As far as, when I was over there and talked to folks, they were foreign invaders, taking land that didn't belong to them.
Yeah, so they weren't viewed positively. So they heard the Israelites. They knew, to Mark's point, the Israelites were destroying every city. They must have known, if they were coming to lie about it, they must have known that the Israelites had the order to destroy everything in the Promised Land. But again, they also knew things back as far as Egypt. They knew about how they escaped from Egypt. Do you think maybe that they had heard about God's promise to Abraham? Where God promised Abraham the Promised Land. The law of Moses, they may have even seen or had copies of the law of Moses or heard rumors of the law of Moses that the Israelites were taking over the land and that God had ordered them to demolish all these cities and all the people that were in their way. To me, that they almost had to have known that to lie about it. Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just try to make peace? Why wouldn't they just say, come in, you can have everything, but we'll be your servants? So they had to have known this. If you look over in Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 through 30, it explains what God tells the Israelites about their journey. It says, see, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and bring you to a place that I have prepared. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion, since my name is in him. If you listen carefully to what he says and all that I say, I will be an enemy to your enemies, and will oppose those who oppose you. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will wipe them out. Do not bow down before their gods, or worship them, or follow their practices. You must demolish them and break their sacred stones to pieces. Worship the Lord your God, and his blessing will be on your food and on your water. I will take away sickness from among you, and none will miscarry or be barren in your land. I will give you a full lifespan. I will send my terror ahead of you, and throw into confusion every nation you encounter. I will make all of your enemies turn their backs and run. I will send the hornet ahead of you to drive the Hivites, Canaanites, and Hittites out of your way. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land will become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. So we see from the beginning God had a plan for the Israelites for their entire journey. We see why they didn't just go driving through Promised Land, one city right after another taken over. God had promised them that he would continue to make their number grow big enough. But part of that explains why it took them so long to get there, because they had to have their number get bigger so that they could have armies big enough to destroy these cities, but also so that they would have enough people to take care of the land, to take care of all the livestock and the fields. Comment? So God had this plan from the beginning, and some of it had to have gotten out to the Canaanites, the Hivites, that the Israelites were taking over. So if we go along the lines of what did they think about the Israelites, if we parallel that to the church today, have people who don't go to church, or haven't grown up in church, have they heard of Christianity? In the United States, probably so, maybe not across the world. But are they afraid of God's church taking over their lives? How do they respond? Do they respond like the kings that got together to go against the Israelites, or are they responding by coming in and trying to trick the church? I think that first thing is they one set of them wants to fight it, right? We see organizations like Freedom from Religion that goes around the country bullying schools into taking Bible teachings out of school and taking prayer out of school and after school events. They bully government entities into removing the Ten Commandments from government buildings, from other schools, and things like that. The list goes on and on. These are people that, like the kings that gathered together, they're gathering up together around the country, coming together. They got a bunch of lawyers that are working against the church in America. So we've got this same kind of relationship that the Israelites had with these people in the land that they were living in. We've got people that are against us and want the church to go away. And then the other side of that, I think we probably have more of these in America right now. Who knows what the next few years will hold. But that mindset of, if you can't beat them, then join them. I think there are a lot of people that, instead of fighting the church, they just come join the church or become an imposter, just like the Gibeonites were. So they come in, they make you believe one thing, they pretend to be something that they're not, because maybe it helps their career, maybe it helps their political status or their social life. So maybe they do things, you'll see people post on Facebook scriptures or Bible verses or positive things about God or inspirational quotes that give the appearance that they're a born-again believer. And I think a lot of people do that, kind of fool other Christians, trying to make people believe that that's who they are and that's what they're about, so that they don't have to have those awkward conversations where somebody invites them to church and they have to explain why it is that they don't want to go, or they don't have to have the conversation of really talking about the gospel of Christ and talking about salvation. People put on the same front just like the Gibeonites did thousands of years ago. Anybody have any thoughts on that before we continue?
Hey, Cory, I got a question. The one thing that I hadn't understood about this chapter, God made covenants with the Israelites. And when the Israelites didn't hold up their end of the bargain, or they didn't do right, well, God said, okay, I'm going to give it to you. Well, I don't understand why this covenant was, why there was an expectation that this covenant had to be held when the terms of it were a lie. I don't understand why Joshua felt he had to go through with this, because the premise of the covenant was based on deceit. And, God made covenants plenty of times, say how, I'll be with you always, but yet when the Israelites didn't do right, he did turn his back on them and let them suffer for decades sometimes. So I've never, that's one of the things that I guess I don't understand about this chapter, where the expectation came that they had to be compliant with the covenant when the covenant was based on deceit. I don't understand that.
So to me, I think it's probably based on who made the covenants, who made the promise. Right? Who's the one that initiated the promise? So God's the one that initiated the covenant with Abraham and with the Israelites. So here's what I promise you, what we're going to give you. You're going to get these lands if you do all these things. And to your point, when they don't do all these things, he does punish them. But he does hold true to his covenant to Abraham, to Moses. In this case, I think it's because the Israelites are the one that made the covenant. It's not something that they're breaking against God as a promise that God made. It's a promise they made to God, or on God, I guess, because they used him as their oath. And that was one of the 10 Commandments, right? That's part of what I'll get into in a minute. If we look at the 10 Commandments, it's do not swear on God, and that's what they did. They swore on God. Does that kind of answer your question or make sense?
Yeah, but I still don't, there was law back then too, and if something was made on the premises of deceit and lies, how does it hold true? Or how does it hold up? I don't think they should have been bound by that covenant when it was made with deceit and lies.
That had the opportunity to ask God about it,
Yes.
and chose not to.
Could have been greed on their side, because what were they gonna be? They're gonna be their servants. They're gonna chop our wood for us. We ain't gonna have to do it no more. They're gonna tote our water. So it might have been the greed side of them that got that.
And there was disagreement, because the assembly was, they said they're of the opinion that we need this is not what we're supposed to do. So that, I don't think that it was, a complete consensus, but I think Joshua believes is We made the covenants, we're gonna stand by it.
I think it was, in a part, them not being able to go in and utterly destroy them like they had everyone else was in essence, to me, it seemed like a punishment because of them not asking God for his guidance and the way what they should do in that situation. Like they had to live with these people among them, and they didn't utterly destroy them or everything that they had. So they were punished. The Israelites were punished in the sense that they still had all of that around them, and ultimately, I mean, they were in temptations and they never could stand up to it. Time and time again, they fell into those temptations. So.
Anybody else? So in verse 14, it mentions the Israelites sampled their provision. So they brought all these things that they were pretending to be these foreigners. And the Israelites, it says, sampled their provisions, meaning they probably took the bread or they looked at the wineskins to see if it's really what they said it was. And of course it was, because they had prepared for that. They were ready for the Israelites to look at what they had. But the most important part of that is the last part of that verse. To John's point, they didn't seek the counsel of the Lord. I think that's something we're guilty of often today. Just as I was talking about earlier, people on Facebook posting stuff. Do we like or comment on that verse that somebody shared? Make the assumption that that person must be a Christian. They must be a born-again believer. They believe the gospel. They have followed the plan of salvation. But then we don't really consider anything more than that. We don't seek counsel of God to really know, is that something that we should be reaching out to this person? Are they pretending to be something that they're not? Should I be reaching out as a Christian to help them either come to Christ because they really don't know him, or grow in their faith if it's something that they're struggling with? Other than that, do we miss opportunities to destroy Satan and bring someone else to Christ because we let people pretend to be a good person or pretend to be something that they're not without us digging in and really understanding who they are to know if they're part of Christ's church? That's something I don't think we do good in this country at all. I think we assume a lot of times that people act like a Christian, and so we assume that they've gone to church and they've gone through the plan of salvation, and so we kind of leave them alone and we'll focus our time somewhere else.
And I think that's part of one of the devil's most effective tools is, I'm okay, you're okay, don't question anybody else's conviction.
I think that we have grown, when I say we, Christian folks have grown to become passive because that's what our society has pushed us into. We don't fight it back. We don't fight back with it. You know, at work, it's fine and dandy to have your, I don't even know what the abbreviation things are, but like my work, my home page, up in the right-hand corner, yay for Cummins because they're so friendly to the LG whatever thing. And I think and that disgusts me because, you know, God forbid there be any Christian thing up there, but because they're so wonderful because they accept diversity, that should be celebrated, and it disgusts me. But reply to that email and see what happens to you. I mean, we are, and whether you're in school or at work, or just general society, if you pipe up, you know, if someone's wanting to talk about how religion shouldn't be part of anything and all that, if you pipe up, I mean, you are, the masses are quick to scold you because they want to keep religions separate from government, religions separate from work, religions separate from everything. And the problem with that is Christianity is our life. It's not just something we do. It's who and what we are. But you're walking a thin line if you profess that at work. If you want to challenge a professor, if you're in school, I mean, it's just, that's what our society's done. So we have it. I think that as a whole, Christianity, at least in this country, has become passive. Or the path of least resistance is taken. And got.
It's become so hard, I think, to try to defend what we believe is, what we know is right, what we believe the Bible teaches that if you defend cause and you're turning into sexist or racist or haters, and that's not the message. So it's like Mark said, it is a fine line. How do you bring about the change without, people turning, they hate you for what you're saying, and turning it into something that you're not trying to say? When, so they were quiet because we don't want to dredge up more hate. It's difficult to do if you want to bring about something good and oppose being taught or being said.
Yeah, I agree. So an interesting example comes to mind. I'm sure y'all seen all the chaos that's going on about Halloween. And Brother David Jackson, county mayor, called all kinds of flack because he asked the mayors of the cities to celebrate Halloween trick-or-treating on Tuesday night because Halloween falls on Wednesday night. That's something this area's been doing since I've been alive. It falls on Sunday or Wednesday night, they change it to the night before. But Brother Jackson, because of how the world's going, to Mark's point, they're trying to push Christianity to be completely separate from anything else in the world, and nobody needs to respect Christianity or to respect all these other things that the world's doing, everything else about the world. So I think that was an interesting example that he stood up and all the backlash that he's gotten from just saying, hey, we're in the Bible Belt. We're gonna do this just like we've always done it. So good for him, proud of him for standing up for that. But all the backlash that he's received is what you're talking about, right? We get that, and then we're scared to step out the next time and do the right thing.
Cory, let me share an experience I had once. I was working over in South Carolina. I was putting the kitchen in a nursing home. And the superintendent of the job, everybody that come in the kitchen there told me, better watch him, he's mean, ornery, no. I hadn't met the man yet, and I was in there working. Well, he comes in there, first thing he starts doing is taking God's name in vain and snorting and going on. I just stopped everybody from work. Walked up to him, stood face to face with him. I said, I'm going to tell you something, mister. I usually don't talk religion or politics on the job. But being you brought God up, let me tell you about Jesus Christ. He never came back in the kitchen to bother me no more. So, Christians have to stand the ground and stand up for what we are told to do. Spread the gospel.
Good example. So if you look at the Israelites, we had a lesson a couple weeks ago. I think Mark taught the lesson. They should have learned their lesson by now about looking to God, about turning to God to ask for help. Because after they were defeated at Ai, they kind of turned their back on it. In that lesson, we focused a lot on, I think, Achan's sin and how Achan had sinned, and it brought about something for the Israelites that they wouldn't have had they not sinned. But I think Achan's sin was probably only half of the equation of losing that battle. Instead of, in that battle, seeking God, well, if you'll remember, the Israelites had just majorly and miraculously walked around Jericho, the walls fell in, they took Jericho very easily. So they were on this high, kind of coming out of Jericho. They knew they had God on their side, they were very confident, and they didn't think anybody could defeat them. So now they're going into their next battle, they're going into their next city, and instead of seeking instruction from Yahweh, which is how they won the battle of Jericho, right? They had instruction from God, very specific instructions that had nothing to do with anything physical on this earth. Walk around the city for 7 days. And very specific instructions that did nothing but test their faith. So they didn't look to God in this battle of Ai. They also had Achan's sin that came from Jericho. But they took it upon themselves because they're on this high. They think they're unstoppable. They go spy out the city. They go see that their army and or their people are much smaller than the Israelite army. And they say, it's going to be a breeze. We can take over them, no problem. And then they come back, and what happens? They lose. And now they're mad at God. Well, they didn't look to God. They didn't ask for God's help. And then they lost, and they're mad at God. So we're seeing again, in this next example, so they finally come back, they beat Ai and took over Ai. And now they're going to the next city, to the next area, and they run across these people, and instead of looking to God for guidance on what they should do, should we take these people to be our servant? Should we send them back away? Should we kill them all? What should we do? They just make up their minds to Mr. Holscall's point. They want to be our servants. You know, they're coming here, they want to serve us. Yeah, let's jump on that. Go ahead. You can carry our water, you can cut our wood. That's just one less thing that we have to do. So they were not looking to God. And then we saw back in Ai how that turned out for them, right? Because they failed to seek counsel, then they turned on God. If you look at that and kind of look at ourselves today, I think we're guilty of that a lot of times as well. I think we're guilty of going down this path in life and making these decisions and doing all these things and coming back to God and saying, God, why did this happen to me? Why does this happen in my life? But before whatever it is that happened, we didn't go ask God for help. We didn't ask for his guidance or his input. We didn't ask for any strategy on how we should approach the situation. We just go make a decision thinking that God's on our side, just like the Israelites did, right? We have this overconfidence. We're Christians, we're born-again believers, God's on our side. So whatever decision we make, he's going to help us continue down that path, and everything's going to be good and great. I think as Christians, we're guilty of sometimes being overconfident in our Christianity or in what we expect God to do. Good verse people like to point out. So Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I think that was advice that was good for the Israelites thousands of years ago. It's advice that's good for us today, and will be advice that's good for generations to come. Moving on down the passage, the Israelites not only believe the story that the Hivites tell them, but what else do they do? We kind of talked about it. They don't just believe the story, but they go in and do what? Make what with them? Covenant. They make this treaty, this covenant with them. Okay, great. Come in and carry our water. You can be our servants. Why is it such a big deal that they make the treaty with them? What is it that made that a big deal? God specifically told them not to, right? If you look back at the end of the passage I read earlier, in Exodus chapter 23, continue on down, verses 31 through 33. I will establish your borders from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the desert to the Euphrates River. I will give you into your hands the people who live in the land, and you will drive them out before you. Do not make a covenant with them or their God. Do not let them live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me, because the worship of their gods will certainly be a snare to you. So the first thing they did wrong is they made a covenant when God specifically said, don't make a covenant with them. They worship these gods. They're going to pull you in, just like the journey across the desert, where you got pulled in to worship all these gods that were not me. They're going to pull you in if you make a covenant with them. You're going to be falling in sin against me. So they've just made this covenant now where God specifically instructed them not to do that. And then not only did they disobey God by making this covenant, we've already talked a little bit. What else was wrong with the covenant they made? They didn't just make the covenant. How did they do it? They did it in the name of the Lord. In the name of the Lord God of Israel. In the Ten Commandments, Exodus 20, verse 7, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. So if they broke this promise they made to the Hivites, they would be breaking an oath that they made by the Lord God, or on the Lord God of Israel. So they messed up twice in one covenant. How long did it take them to realize that they messed up? 3 days. Just 3 days later. They come in, they find out the truth about who the people are, and now they can do nothing about it because of this covenant they just made. Because they swore on the Lord God of Israel. And kind of as we were talking about before, if they had just done one of those, if they had just made the covenant with them, the covenant itself with them probably would have been able to be null and void. But because they made the covenant in the name of the Lord, they were now bound to hold that covenant, and they could not destroy the city. I think it's the same for us. It usually doesn't take us long when we mess up, when we do something that we shouldn't do. And now we're past that point, and there's nothing we can do to rewind time and do it over again. So I think this is the last thing that we see of the Gibeonites in Joshua. But what becomes of them? The lesson talks at the very end of it. What becomes of the Gibeonites? They stay with the Israelites. What happens later? Do you might remember?
They need help for just a week or so because the nations around them say, you may break a treaty with their enemies and they come to attack them. So Israel has to come to their defense. But they become water carriers and wood choppers in the houses.
So they're now forever enslaved by the Israelites. I think I heard somebody say Saul. So when Saul becomes king, Saul sins against them, against the oath, and he kills some of them off. And when he does that, Israel is punished by this 3-year drought. So if you look at the consequences of the actions of Joshua and these elders, or whatever they were called, their decisions that they made caused a 3-year drought years down the road.
So does the 3-year drought help us realize that that covenant had to be kept?
I think so.
It doesn't make sense that they ever agreed to that so quickly, you know, and I'm of the opinion they should have never honored it, and I guess they wouldn't have had to honor it, except it wasn't, very sad.
So if we look at that, and we look at that in our lives, decisions and actions that we make, I think often are way more powerful than we think about the time that we're making decisions. Here we've got people volunteer to be servants. So for the Israelites, they jump at the opportunity. They get instant gratification. We have this much less work to do because all these people are going to be doing it for us now. If you look at Achan had instant gratification. There's this thing that he wants. There's this money that he wants. I can get it right now. I can have it right now. And then it affects not just him later on. It affects his whole family. His whole family gets killed because of that one decision, that one action. When I think about this, I always think about Jacob and Esau. That one decision that Esau had, take a bowl of soup, and what it meant for him to have that instant gratification. He gave up being in the bloodline of the Savior of the world because he wanted a bowl of soup. So our actions, I don't think, just impact us. They impact others around us. They impact our families. They impact our friends, our coworkers. A lot of times we'll make a decision and not think about it impacting somebody else or somebody years down the road. That's what we see from the lesson today. That's what we see from a lot of the lessons with the Israelites. Is the decisions that we make in our lives are important. That's why we need to go to God. We need to seek wisdom from God so that when we make decisions, big or small, that they're the decisions that God would have us make. Anybody have any comments before we close?